Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're going to be building a nice floating shelf just like this one. I have some easy plans that I just drew up with a pencil and paper, and it should be an easy project to do. And let's get started. I just want to point out first that I do have a cutting board gluing up, so this is going to be in the way of the entire project, which is going to be awesome. So these are the plans that I have drawn up, pretty basic, and it's going to be 4 feet long. It's going to stick out from the wall 6 inches, and it's going to be 3 inches thick. And this is all going to be 45-degree miters all around here, so it's going to fit together really nicely and just be a seamless shelf. So let's get going.
All right, so we're going to get started by first measuring off all of the pieces here. I'm just using some pine boards. These are the ones without the knots in it. I thought it would be easy enough and good enough just to use these. Didn't need any special hardwood lumber or anything. So measured them out to 6 feet. Or 4 feet, and just cut these real quick. And then after I cut the smaller boards for the edges, then I went back and measured out this 4-foot one. This is a 1x10 and measured it at 4 feet, and then I rip it down to 6 inches later here in the video. And then here I'm taking the 1x10 and ripping it down to 6 inches. And like I said earlier, the shelf is going to be all 45-degree miters where the pieces meet. But I'm first cutting these all just to size before I cut the 45 degrees on them. And right here I'm cutting the edges, which are 3-inch pieces. And then I laid out all 4 pieces here. I actually only needed, I believe, 2 or 3 of these pieces. I actually didn't end up putting a bottom on it at all. And I'm cutting the edges of it where it sticks out from the wall at 6 inches here. So I cut the first piece, and then I just squared it up and drew a line on the next piece so I can just cut the next 6-inch piece. I needed 2 6-inch pieces to stick out from the wall, and then the top flat part was 4 feet by 6 inches wide. And then here I'm cutting those at 45 degrees. These are the edges on either side of the shelf. And they get 3 45-degree cuts on 3 of the sides. And then this is me just ripping down the entire length piece of the edge, and then this is the top piece that I'm ripping down the 45 degree as well. And then here what I'm doing is I'm kind of taping the edges together so I can put glue on them and kind of fold it up like a big puzzle piece, like a box. So I tape the back sides of them, and it just holds it easier when you're putting the glue on them. Streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. Then I flip it over so I can put the glue on these edges right here, get the nail gun ready to go, and put the glue on, spread it out. And then with the tape on there, it just kind of folds in. I actually had to switch the ends. I had them backwards. But then it just kind of folds in, and the tape really helps hold that in place when you do nail it.
Tonight, we will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight.
And here I'm just nailing the corners together. I think I'm using 1.5 or 2-inch nails in there, so very long nails. But the glue does most of the holding strength there. Then you can take the tape off after you nail these in. I put 3 nails on each side. And now I'm gluing the long edge, and I put a big piece of tape on the back side of this as well. Now I'm just spraying the glue out here. And it just folds up just like that, and everything should come together pretty nicely. Just kind of lining everything up on the ends and holding it together and nailing it. And you will see in this video, there is just that minor gap right there. And what you can do to fix that is just get some wood filler and fill all that. And I end up doing that now. So you have to fill all these nail holes in so you can fill your gaps in your corners. You can try to get 45-degree perfect every time, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And you get little gaps, but the wood filler fixed that. And same with this top piece. And actually right here, I drive a nail in and it shoots out the side right there, and I noticed it. And I don't know how that happened. I just didn't have it angled properly. But what I did is I took some tin snips and I just cut that off right at the base. And there was still a little bit sticking up when I cut it, and I just used a hammer and just pounded it flat. This is the top side of the shelf, and the stuff we're putting on it, you're never going to see that little shiny nail kind of, it's not even sticking out. Once I pounded it, it was flat, but you're never going to see that. So it was okay. And then I went and just pounded the rest of it, and it wasn't lining up at some point, so I had to kind of squeeze it and form it with my hands and then nail it into place. And I cut this little 1x2 piece to fit. This is what's going to mount to the wall, and then the shelf is going to sit on top of that. And now I'm going with the wood filler, filling all the cracks in, all the nail holes and all the gaps around all the corners and everything. And it took me a little bit of time to do all this because there was a lot of gaps. Obviously, if you were more precise and you had some better tools, you wouldn't have all those gaps to fill. And then I just took some 120 grit sandpaper and sanded everything down first. And I somewhat rounded the edges just slightly, not even making them round, just kind of took off that sharp edge, and just so it's a little bit better than that perfect 90 sharp edge. So just made it a little bit more comfortable. So I did all the 120 grit sandpaper and then put 220 on there and sanded it.
Between us, it's getting hard to reach out.
And then here I am mixing up the gel stain. If you ever use gel stain, it's almost like a pudding when you open up the can. So it really takes a while to mix up. And then it almost looks like ketchup as I'm applying it here. And I like to use gel on the pine because pine does not stain very well, even if you use the preconditioner on it. So gel stain more so sits on top of the wood, and it stains pine pretty nicely. So what's weird is the stain is like a red color. And then when it dries and you wipe it off, it's more of like a light gold color, as this color turns out to be. It's really interesting. But you just paint it on with a brush on the entire thing, and that's what I'm doing here. And actually it starts turning color. As you can see, it's kind of red when it goes on. Even in the jar there is red. And then it starts lightening up and turns more of like a golden color. And there's the finished product of that. I waited a couple minutes. I think that the side of the can says 3 minutes, and then you just wipe it down really good to take the top layer of stain off. And then you're left with this. And then you wait about 6 hours, and it came back with some spray lacquer. And I have this little cool attachment trigger that I put on the spray lacquer can. It's a gloss spray lacquer I'm using. Make sure you're wearing a respirator because this stuff's pretty strong, so I put that on. And this thing was broken or something because I go to squeeze it and it just falls right out of the thing there. I don't know what happened, but I think it's broken. I need a new one. It's pretty cheap for that little trigger piece. But then I just held the can with the trigger at the same time so it didn't fall off again. I just sprayed the whole thing. I believe I put 3 coats on it. Lacquer dries pretty fast. Then I came inside with that 1x2 piece and started mounting this to the wall where we wanted it.
To see you again, see you again. Been finding ways to get away. To see you again.
And after I had that mounted to the wall, I went back in the garage and used some brown paper lunch bag, and I buffed out the lacquer, and that gives it a nice smooth finish. Then here, this is mounted to the wall. I have way too many screws in there, but that's besides the point. So, and then this just fits right over the top of that, and it doesn't really hold itself on there. I didn't create a whole rib structure in it, but then I just drill right through the top into that mounting bracket and put the screws in. And again, if you didn't want these screws sticking up on the top of this, you could countersink them. I'm using the impact driver. It's driving them a little bit farther in there. But again, the things we're putting on the shelf are just going to cover it up. So it really didn't matter to me if the screws were kind of sticking up out of the top of this. So I got the 2 end ones in first, and then it could kind of hold itself on the wall pretty nicely. And then I went back in, drilled various holes. I don't know how many I did across the whole thing, but use your own discretion. And then I put screws in all of those as well. And that is the finished product. Just a nice, clean, floating shelf. And we put the stuff on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys could follow along and see this. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.